I'm an escaped car thief. I broke out of prison to see the Cubs win the World Series. Jimmy Dworsky. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for a second straight week covering the League of Dicks, the most competitive fantasy league in North America. I am here with the not one, not two, not three, but four-time League of Dicks champion Brian Smith, as well as our resident alcoholic, Mr. Ryan Fitz. Ryan, why don't you start off and say hi to the people for us, huh?
Hey, what's up, League Execs? Thanks for having me on, Kevin, and properly giving me my due for my 4 titles. Excited to be on the podcast today.
It's true, but Brian, I got to call you out for one thing, and I think the league needs to know that Brian's Skype name is Audie Bry. Audie Bry something. I don't even. It's this.
It's odd.
It's this hybrid of nothingness. Ryan, how are you? Ryan and Brian, but I'm going with Ryan.
I'm doing fantastic. Actually, let me tell you, it's a pleasure to be on with the only 2 individuals that have won the title since I've been in the league.
That's true. NWA represent. NWA always and always.
Fuck that NWA shit. But anyway, good luck.
Yeah. So, you know what? I want to start off kind of this place. I talked to Jay and Seth last week, and I talked to them about how they felt about this K and then BB stat and all that. So I want to kind of start off there. Brian, how do you feel about it so far?
I think it's been really interesting. In my draft prep, I just think there were so many different interesting ways you could go with the added stat, also being a negative stat that you wanted to keep low. So as everyone's seen my team, I'm going pretty heavy on the relievers that high strikeout relievers and quality starters. I didn't play Masterson either game last week, which was a total bonehead move, but I'm kind of going with quality starters and high-end relievers, and other teams are doing it differently. Scott's streaming like we all knew he would. And
Jeez,
I just think
but he's taking streaming to the next level. Like I've been the league streamer, I feel like, in past seasons.
Scott is way beyond what I mean.
He is so far beyond what I've ever been.
The stream team is the perfect name for Scott.
It really is.
So I just think
Scott told me this week he's actually not a streamer. He told me. So
Really?
I don't know what that means. I don't know what streaming, how it's defined, but I'm guessing that he is the quintessential streamer.
Okay. You know, Ryan, a lot of us are shocked to hear your voice. You've kind of been the man behind the curtain for a very long time. What do you want to say to the league as your kind of mark as your first vocal pronouncement?
Jesus, how long is this podcast? Actually, first of all, like I said, props to you guys for being the only 2 that have won the league since I've been in it.
Thank you.
I could go down a list of things I would want to say to X, Y, and Z people, but beyond that, you know what? It's good to be in the league. It's a fantastic competitive league. There's a few guys that probably don't belong here, and that'll kind of work itself out. But,
Wait, we have the opportunity here. Let's hear you talk about X, Y, and Z. Let's start with X.
Why don't we wait until you give us the contender pretender portion of this podcast, and then we'll talk about those cats.
All right, Brian, how do you feel about the new stats?
Actually, you know what? I love them because I've obviously been a proponent of kicking the streamers to the curb, and I think that the new stat with the walks in and of itself lends itself to making people think about who they're going to pick up, and obviously Scott shows no fear.
Okay, but hold on.
Talking about his pitching staff, it's hard to dissect his pitching staff because you're talking about 15 guys a week. But beyond that, I mean, I think it's a good stat. It definitely curbs someone's enthusiasm when it comes to just picking up random guys, because you're definitely putting yourself at risk in that category each and every week that you decide to pick up 6 or 7 extra guys to get the Ks and whatnot. So
here's my argument with that, and Brian, I want you to talk about this as well. I don't know that it changes that much, really. It changes the type of pitchers you might pick up, but I don't feel like it deters streamers. Because I said last week that for me, when I want to pick someone up, I'm going to say, you know what? maybe I get the quality start, maybe not. But if I pick up an Edwin Jackson, I know that I'm still in play for K per 9. And I'm already, because I'm streaming, I know I'm already behind on walks because that means my pitchers got shelled. So does it change?
The guy throws a perfect game and walks 5 guys. So, I mean, it's like, how do you reconcile that in your mind?
Well, that's not a perfect game.
Well, I'm sorry, a no-hitter. A no-hitter and walks 5 guys. I mean,
Brian, what are your thoughts on the new stats in terms of how it affects streamers?
I think it deters streaming a little bit. You have the opportunity to pick up a bunch of pretty quality middle relievers, but you're going to find that every strategy, every gimmick that you try to use with this league is...
That's what I mean.
A lot of it depends on luck.
Has it changed the game that much?
I don't think it's changed that much. I think it's just added... It's placed more value in the best relievers, like Aroldis Chapman, like Craig Kimbrell. Those guys are a lot more valuable. The middling closers are no more valuable. I think it's decreased the value in middling starters and increased the top-end closers, and that's about it.
Has it increased the value in top-end starting pitchers?
Yeah, definitely guys like Verlander and Kershaw, guys who keep the walks down and consistently give you top K per 9, ERA, and WHIP numbers. Those guys might be a little more valuable now than they were. But you and me, Kevin, we always thought those guys were valuable. The rest of the league may not have been with us.
Well, that's why I got 2 rings and you got 4, Brian.
Right.
So I should mention to the league that right now Ryan, true to form, is podcasting from what's the bar name, Brian? Or Ryan?
It's called Fit Daddies, and actually, you know what? I'm just having some wings and drinking a couple beers, but I thought the podcast was at 8, so anything I say from here on out is suspect and subject to the fact that I've been here 2 hours longer than anticipated.
Well, Brian, I think the league, you and I and the league want to know this, and back me up if you agree. Ryan, you hearing me?
Yes,
Ryan with an R. Why are you such a pain in the ass to trade with? Why can no one make a trade with you? You are impossible to deal with.
I disagree completely on this.
Wait, you disagree, Brian? Hold on.
I'm going to speak first, actually.
Hold on. Ryan disagrees. Ryan, why do you disagree?
Me and Ryan have made a bunch of deals. Everyone brings up that one, but I feel like Ryan...
What one? What one are you talking about?
What?
He's talking about Reynolds and CC for Pablo and Javier.
Sabathia Vasquez deal. Obviously, that one turned out in my favor. We can argue about it all day long. But me and Ryan have done 3 or 4 deals, and Ryan,
Has he won, Brian? Has he won any of these deals?
I think he. I'd have to go back, but I think he has.
Look, CC had a 5.15 ERA and a 140 WHIP the month that I traded him to Brian.
Ryan,
he's coming off the year where he hit 330, 950 OPS, 25 jacks. Mark Reynolds was hitting just about 185 when I gave him to him. Of course, Jay, my favorite person in the league, Jay, wanted to talk about the fact that it was CC for Javier straight up, which, that's just Jay. But the bottom line is you're talking about upside versus what you're going to get out of Reynolds. CC was pitching like garbage at the time. Javier was actually pitching great at the time. And, it just is what it is. If you want to talk about trades, nobody wants to mention the fact that Jay last year in 2012 decided to trade Trout, Gordon, and Gallardo for Joyce, who's not even a fucking everyday player, for Wainwright and Hansen. Really? Really? Shots fired.
He basically gave our first rookie a playoff appearance, and that's kind of embarrassing.
And Scott refuses to admit that, but he trouted his way into the playoffs, and all he can talk about is his historical presence in this league, which is 1 year of 1 attempt of one guy who basically led the league in every category just about, besides Cabrera's obviously Triple Crown run. And he got lucky and great. Congratulations, Scott. You made the playoffs. You won a matchup. You're my hero.
Here's the thing I have to say about that, and Brian can attest. No one gives a shit about who finishes in what place in this league. The only thing that matters in this league, which is why I love the league, is rings. That's the only thing that matters. Unless you're talking about, do you get voted out or not? So if you have 2 conversations, who's finished in first place and who should get voted out. Other than that, there's this no man's land of nobody cares.
Agreed.
Definitely. I mean, you see guys like Scott dissing Ryan and saying, "Oh, you haven't won a playoff matchup." It's like no one cares about playoff matchups. It's winning it all, or being terrible, or I mean, I guess making the playoffs on a year-to-year basis is something nice.
Ask Darren how he feels about that.
Yeah.
Who's
that doesn't
Darren?
get you anywhere
Who's Darren?
scoring.
Who's Darren?
Darren's the guy who actually should be in this league. I'm just going to go on record as saying Darren Amoroso, if that's how you pronounce his last name, is sorely missed. Not because of his tremendous ability as a fantasy player, but he just adds flavor and spice,
Okay.
and he keeps it
everything nice.
Then let's go here. How do you feel about Darren versus this rookie? What are your thoughts on this rookie? What's his name?
I have no idea.
No, Brian. What's his name?
Anthony?
Is it Anthony?
Anthony, okay.
Okay. How do you guys feel about him? Brian, you first, and then Ryan follow up.
I've emailed with him a couple times, some trade talks that got nowhere, but he seemed pretty reasonable, and I'll be honest, I haven't probably spent more than 10 seconds looking at his team, but he's in the 7th right now. He's doing way better than Justin and whoever Darren Amoruso is now, Travis, I guess. So he's made some interesting draft picks and pickups. I think he's okay.
You think
For
Ryan?
me, he's okay so far.
Hold on, Ryan, 1 second. Ryan, 1 second. Brian's being nice because Brian is in 6th place and the rookie is in 7th. And Brian is like, who can I take from the rookie's team to make my team a contender? Who could it be? So you're
I already asked if you wanted Trout for Victorino, and he said no. So
No, all right, hold on.
Still on your squad, dude?
Hold
he
on.
really still on your squad?
Full disclosure, and this is against protocol, but it's a podcast, so I guess there is no protocol. I'm gonna let everyone know about a trade he offered me, which turned my stomach. He offered me Mike Trout, Alexi Ramirez, who before we offered the trade he picked up at 9 a.m. that day. So Mike Trout, Alexi Ramirez, Jonathan Papelbon, and Kevin Slowey. 4 on my team for Steven Strasburg. Hold on. Steven Strasburg. I'm loading it up. Steven Strasburg, Elvis Andrus, Sterling Marte, and Carlos Santana.
And you didn't do it?
Shocking. So anyway, Ryan, your thoughts on the rookie?
You know, the rookie, excuse the cliche, he struck gold. I mean, Goldschmidt's putting up numbers like Pujols used to put up, which, by the way, Pujols is no longer a top 20 bat. I mean, you can quote me on that, blah, blah, blah. But the rookie's team, I mean, as a person overall, it seems like he's got his head on somewhat, but he's got a lot of guys on there that I would question. I mean, Melky really hasn't been able to hit a home run since he stopped the Flintstones vitamins. I don't trust that team as far as I can throw it, but it's neither here nor there. If that guy finishes 8 or above, I consider it a win for a rook.
Okay. So we're going. You want to go through X, Y, and Z? Let's do contender pretender. How about that?
Absolutely.
You up for that, Brian?
yeah, let's do it.
Let's do contender pretender. Brian Smith and Ryan Fitz. 4-time league champion and our resident alcoholic going through the league. Delmore Berry, team number 1. Now, who is that? Is that Craig?
That's Craig.
Not who?
Is it Craig, the guy that Jay bitches about every year about not following through on a bet, and yet his team is way better than his this year?
Look, Matt Harvey has been phenomenal.
He's not going to keep it up, though, is he?
I don't think he's keeping it up, but I think Burnett could keep it up decently. Burnett in the NL is a lot better than Burnett with the Yankees.
No, I
Gio
agree.
Gonzalez is a good pitcher, and he's taking those Flintstone vitamins Ryan was talking about. I don't know. His team does. I think he'll make the playoffs. I don't think he's a contender for the title, but he's got an interesting team. McCutchen, Freeman's had a decent year. I don't know. I mean, I'd
He
predict
can't. He
fifth or
can't.
sixth.
I think he's a playoff team, but he can't get.
Oh, yeah.
He can't get a bye with this team, can he?
No, I think fifth or so.
I mean, when you're a utility bat, I mean, obviously it's the lineups are set today.
He's got 2 catchers on his team, dude. Bottom line.
Exactly. All right, so let's go on to number 2, and number 2 right now is our favorite, the Stream team, with Mr. Scott. Ryan, why don't you start us off?
All right, Scott. You know what? The fact of the matter is, he's obviously got 3 big bats. The problem is, you're talking about 3 big bats. A couple of them are injury prone. He's all hyped about Hanley coming back. As his 4th bat. Hanley. I mean, come on! You take out his best year and his worst year, and what do you really have? You know, his first baseman. I think the combined age of his first baseman is like 80. He's got 2 of them. I mean, let's just be realistic. And again, with the arms, you're talking about how good do his 15 arms a week pan out? I mean, who knows?
Well,
Scott's competitive. He's obviously savvy. He's on top of things.
He's got the West Coast advantage
his
too.
His marriage is intact. I have no idea. Because he obviously spent all day, every day in front of the computer. And never mind his work life, I have no idea. But the bottom line is, I mean, he's competitive because he's got those 3 bats. If Tulo has 500 at-bats, which I actually highly doubt, and Cargo does his thing where he splits stats and hits like hell at home and does whatever he does on the road, and Cano is obviously Cano, then that can carry you a long way. But I don't trust his team. Would I consider him a contender? I mean, I have a hard time, honestly, talking about people that can win the championship because it's just a lot of luck and a lot of it's Y or Z once you get into the playoffs.
But Brian, you know this. It's very difficult to win the championship as a streamer because so much has to go right. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Sorry, there was some feedback for a second. Stream team doesn't. We've never had a streamer win the championship that I can remember. Maybe in one playoff series someone can pull it off, but to start the season as one, I just don't see it.
It's virtually impossible unless you win a bye, because it's very hard to win 3 matchups in a row outright without tying, because you might not win the head-to-head with that person. It's very hard to win as a streamer.
He consolidated all of his talent in a couple guys on offense, and one of them's Tulowitzki, who always gets hurt. 2 of them play for the Rockies, and half their games may not give you the kind of week that you would need to win a championship. So he's kind of left with Cano as his only real given every week. And, you know, anyone's prone to a bad week. So I don't see Scott winning the title as constructed.
My problem...
Right. And we're playing in a 12-team league, too. So, I mean, most of these managers are savvy. There's not a whole lot of guys sitting around that don't deserve to be picked up. So, yeah, I mean, he's gonna end up just basically rolling the dice, and ultimately, you know, it may work, it may not. But like you said, over the course of time, 3-4 weeks of playoff matchups, because he's not going to get a bye. It's not going to work in his favor.
My biggest issue with his team, and I know that I'm not supposed to have a huge voice in this, but is the fact that he has Tulu and Cargo, and one cannot really exist successfully without the other, and both are injury prone. Do you know what I mean? Like, Cargo is best when he has Tulu in front of him. Tulu's best when he has Cargo behind him. So it's one of those kind of... It's a very symbiotic relationship, and without the other, they're not nearly as good as they can be. Moving on, there's no crying. Mr. Mark.
Davis, Upton, Fielder. Okay? Fielder's obviously legit, year in, year out. Upton, I mean, he's the guy that you're waiting to have the big season.
You're forgetting about Batista, Ryan.
Then great. Davis, he was somebody that was highly touted, 4 years ago, and never kind of hit his stride. So obviously, if those 3 bats continue to produce like they're producing right now, he's going to be tough to deal with. But I mean, come on, who does he have closing out games? Varys. I mean, if that guy has 10 wins, if he saves every game he has the opportunity to save, he might have 10 saves. I mean, Houston's just a horrible team.
Right, but hold on, Brian, answer this for me. If you're facing Mark and you want to try and stream against him, sure, you might take saves, but then everything else is a crapshoot. Really.
I mean, Mark's pitching is pathetic.
It's horrible, but look at this. He's got. Let's assume one thing. Let's assume do we agree he's probably a playoff team because just based on his track record.
Just on his bats. Forget about his playoff record or track record. Just on his bats alone.
But that's what I mean. Let's assume in September he has a healthy Jose Reyes. He has Jose Bautista. He has Upton, Davis, as well as Mr. Fielder, and then maybe Victor Martinez rebounds a little bit. That's a potent offense.
Yeah, no, he's got a legit offense. He'll make the playoffs for sure. I just don't think you want to go into the playoffs as a streaming team. It's got to be a backup option that you dump all of your starters in the first week of the playoffs. And I'd say contender for him. His offense is really strong. I'd say contender.
All right. No, I mean based on his track record as well, you have to go contender.
Yeah.
Based on sanity's sake, I'm going to avoid Ryan and Brian in this game. We're going to skip to number 5 currently in the standings. Illuminati, Mr. Seth Cohen, the greater Cohen. Let's go here. Brian, start us off with Seth. Brian with a B.
With a B. Okay. Illuminati is loading. Sorry, 1 second.
It's okay.
Ryan, can you go?
Ryan, start off.
Let's see, Seth. Seth's got 5 guys rostered that are hitting under 250. I mean, that's not a good path to travel. Obviously, Edwin has always been undervalued. He's always seen the value in Edwin, and you know what? He's a great bat. I can't deny that. Harper is another one of those guys. I mean, he's a second-year guy. Obviously has all the potential in the world. But, again, can he stay on the field? I mean, the guy has quirky injuries. He's had 3 of them this year. So I don't know if he's going to actually be day in, day out. And then, of course, he's got Matt Joyce playing in his outfield. His outfield actually sucks, besides Harper. I mean, you've got a guy, Joyce. Listen, I follow the Rays. I watch just about every game. I go to a bunch of them. And the guy doesn't play every day. So it's one of those things where you got a guy that's in your outfield that can't hit left-handed pitching for the most part. And, you know, you can't count on him to count stats. So, I don't know. I mean,
his pitching, what about his pitching?
Manager, you know, I'll give him his due. He comes in second place a lot, you know. But the bottom line is it's just like, how many times are you going to go to the well and hope to succeed? And unless he makes some savvy moves, I would see him as not even actually making the playoffs.
Brian, with a B?
I mean, if you tell me one of the Cohens has on their team Alex Rodriguez, Adam LaRoche, Ryan Howard, and Adam Dunn, I would be guessing Jay. Jay loves all overpriced stars. So if your team is looking more like your older brothers than a Seth Cohen team, that's a bad sign.
And here's the thing. He's bashing me like, oh, Ryan would trade Euclid for Howard today. Guess what? I mean, Euclid is not actually sexy. There's no question about that. But what the hell do I need another 240 power hitter on my team for that might be, you know, might have 500 at-bats and yada, yada, yada. So, yeah. You know what? I say to hell with it. I've got Josh Willingham, who hit a home run tonight for the first time since, I don't know, he lost his virginity. I can't do anything about that, but I certainly don't need another low-average power hitter on my squad.
All right, fair enough. We're going to go ahead and skip the Rook. We covered him. Let's go right now to your favorite man, Ryan, with an R, and let's go to Jay. Talk to me about Jay, Ryan.
Jay's doing his typical thing. You know, he'll have like one backup bat. He'll hoard a bunch of arms. He'll hope for the best. I mean, he's got Kuroda, which is pitching out of his mind. The guy's like fucking 50 years old. Albert, like I said, I mean, that's his best bat on his team. And yet, I think he's on the downside of a career. I think that, you know, he'd be lucky to be a top 20 bat by year's end. And, you know, I don't know. His offense is about as scary as a limp dick. I mean, I don't know how else to say it.
How do you feel about him personally?
Jay, you know what? He's a savvy, smart guy, and I like the fact that he's got some fire. But he's one of those dudes that just, like, spouts a bunch of shit, and it's half the truth all the time, and he just hopes nobody catches him on it. And you know what? He's the happiest person in the world that Darren's not in this league, because Darren was one of the few people, unlike myself, that will take the time to break down his bullshit and call him on it.
Brian, you want to follow up?
I mean, I think Brian hit the nail on the head. But Jay's been getting ripped by Darren since they went to summer camp doing whatever the hell they did in their bunk beds together.
I can tell you what they were doing, but it's probably not appropriate for the podcast.
So, I mean, even though everything was me and Darren always, I think there was always a deeper meaning when it was Darren and Jay fighting. So I think Jay's pretty proud that he outlasted Darren. Jay, the last couple of years, I think he's improved on what he used to do. Of course, he still has Hafner on his team, an old, aging bat. But he's got Anthony Rizzo, Hunter Pence, Matt Holliday's not that old yet.
So he's a racist,
Perez.
is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think Jay's got a pretty good team. I think he's closer to contender than pretender, actually.
Okay. Let's go ahead. Let's skip my team because I don't even know what's happening. I wasn't even all there for the draft. So we don't need to break that down. We'll see what happens. Let's go to Charlie, the ghost of Bobby Cox.
Charlie. Go ahead, Brian. I'll let you go first.
I'm stuck on Kevin's team. Kevin,
No, you want to talk about Brian? You want to talk about my team? Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you really screwed up the draft, but
I'm aware.
Pedroia, Reynolds, Santana, Sandoval, Braun, Granderson, Marte. I think you actually have a pretty solid team for screwing up the draft as bad as you did. And Strasburg's going to get better. Garza's coming back, so I would put you in contention to make the playoffs.
I'm not a contender for the title. I will make the playoffs this year. That is my guarantee on this podcast. I will make the playoffs.
I love it.
All right, let's hurry up. We're running. We got about 4 minutes left here. What do you think? Contender, pretender for Ghost of Bobby Cox?
It's hard to say. I mean, Votto actually, obviously is a stud bat. David Wright can go either way. He's going to put up solid numbers every year. Desmond will be lucky to hit like 240, but he's going to swipe a lot of bags and score a lot of runs. De Aza, really? Do I need to talk about De Aza?
No, you don't. If he's not good enough, for the rookie, he should not belong in anyone's team.
Yeah. So I mean, it's one of those things. I obviously played him last week. I basically wiped my ass with him. And actually, I'd like to speak just quickly. I was up 12-0 going into the evening. I benched my bats. Obviously, Cabrera hit 3 home runs that night. I tried to pick up a reliever, dropped Luis Mendoza, and my phone died like right in the middle of the process. So I still actually, the guy that I was trying to pick up didn't strike anybody out. I would have loved to rename him for the whole year. I actually would have loved to rename Travis Moore because
I'll tell you what.
I would have just.
Ryan, why don't you give us the name right now, the rename for a week? You want to give our friend Charlie?
You know what? Honestly, I thought about this for at least 5 minutes, and I was considering something that Jay could relate to. Not only on a fantasy level because he got his ass kicked this week too, but just in life in general. And I thought to myself, the best name that we could put out there for a week would be My Anus Hurts. So that's what's going to be straddled upon my good friend Charlie.
Right.
So Jay can look at that every day and just realize that I sympathize with him, both in real life and in this fantasy world that we survive in.
Brian, thoughts?
I think it's a great name for Charlie. It definitely does hurt after what Ryan did to him last week.
Oh.
And I actually think Charlie's going to make the playoffs. He has good balance pitching and offense. Charlie is probably the fairest trader, I think, in the league. Every trade I make with him, I think, is as even as humanly possible. He's a lot of attention to detail, and I think he has a good team this year, actually.
Brian, can you honestly... Hold on, Ryan.
Go ahead,
Brian, can you honestly say that Ryan is not one of the most difficult people in the league to trade with? Ryan, the person who's on this, he is one of the most difficult to trade with.
No, Jay Cohen, Justin, Scott are all way harder.
See, that's a lie. That's a lie.
Thank you.
That's
an
absolute
honestly,
lie.
Here's the thing. You guys, Jay wants to, get on the whole, okay, yeah, CC for Vasquez, ha, ha, ha. You know what? I fucking traded Mark Reynolds and CC for Pablo and Javier, and 5 days later, I traded Ryan Howard, Pablo Sandoval, and Barry Zito for Evan Longoria, Billy Butler, and an arm to be mentioned later. The point is, it's not like I held on to those guys thinking they were my dream team. So it's just funny how half the facts always come out, especially when you're talking about Jay Cohen, who is obviously the lesser Cohen. And you know what? That's all I'll say about that.
Shots fired. Shots fired.
Was doing horrible, and CeCe was doing horrible. Me and Ryan both took a risk And he traded Panda, so he didn't deal with that crappy season, and I got a good season out of CC. So
all right.
He did. Yeah, CC picked it up. And CC's a solid arm, and you know what? I kind of learned my lesson there, but you know what? Whatever. He's not sexy. CC's not sexy.
You're right. Ryan, Brian, we are up against it. It has been 30 minutes. I feel like we need to expand this podcast, but I'm running out of time. I have 15 seconds left. So I want to thank you both for being on here. Shots have been fired. This is week 2. Shots fired of the Fantasy Baseball League of Dicks podcast. Everybody, enjoy your week. We'll see you next time.
Good job, Kev.